Hi, sixth graders. Today we're going to be starting some notes on 1.3, which is about forces. These notes are going to be divided into 3 different sections. And so today we are just going to be doing the very first section, okay? That's the yellow section on your note sheet. So our objective for this is I can explain how forces affect motion. And the essential question is, how do forces affect motion? So we're going to be looking at different ways that forces can affect motion. It can cause objects to move or cause them to not move. Part 1, this is the yellow portion of your notes. We're going to start by talking about something called net force. So first of all, what is a force and how does it act on an object? Well, a force is just a push or a pull. So forces have size and direction, and we measure it in something called newtons. So whenever I push on something or pull on something, I'm exerting a force. And you can see some examples on here. When he is pushing on that piece of wood, it's causing it to break. And the dog and the woman are playing tug of war, and so they're both pulling. So when we have multiple forces that act on an object, we call that net force. Net force is the combination of all of the forces that are acting on an object. When forces are acting in the same direction, we add them together to determine the net force. And when they're acting in opposite directions, we subtract them to find the net force. So for example, in this picture of these dogs playing tug of war with that toy, this dog on the left is pulling with a force of 10 newtons, and the dog on the right is pulling with a force of 12 newtons. So to find the net force, since they're pulling in opposite directions, I just find the difference. And so the difference between 12 and 10 is 2. I just subtract 12 minus 10. Okay, so it's 2 newtons. And this toy that the dogs are pulling, the dog to the right, it's going to move that direction because that dog is pulling with the greater force. So we would say that this toy is going to move to the right with a force of 2 newtons. When forces are acting in the same direction, we add them together. So these two people are working together to move this couch. So she is moving with a force of 25 newtons, and he is moving with a force of 20 newtons. And since they're moving in the same direction, we add them. 25 plus 20 is 45 newtons, and that couch is going to move to the right since they're with a force of 45 newtons, since they're both moving in that direction. Some more examples of this. We have these two soccer players. So I want you to think about it a little bit. The soccer player in the blue is kicking with a force of 75 newtons. The soccer player in the yellow is kicking this way with a force of 125 newtons. So think about it for a minute. What direction is the ball going to move, and with what force? All right, so the ball is going to move. Since they're moving in opposite directions, I subtract them. So I do 125 minus 75, and I get 50 newtons. So the ball is going to move with a force of 50 newtons, and it's going to move to the left because that is the one where there's a greater force. Okay, let's try another one. Here's a book, and people must be pushing on it with different forces. So this one is pushing this direction with a force of 20 newtons. This one is pushing this direction with a force of 18 newtons. Which direction will the book move, and with what force? So again, because they're moving in opposite directions, I find the difference. So I'm going to take 20 minus 18, and I get, and I get 2 newtons. So I know that it's going to move with a force of 2 newtons, and it's going to move to the left. It's going to move to the left because this force is greater than this force. All right, this guy's trying to push this big, heavy box. So he is pushing with a force of 210 newtons, and the box itself is pushing back with a force of 190 newtons. Now you might be saying, well, how is a box pushing? Well, that's just because it has weight, and so it's heavy and it's hard to push. Okay, so is the box going to move, and in what direction? Again, they're moving in opposite directions, so I find the difference. 210 minus 190. That equals 20 newtons, and it's going to move to the right because that is the greater force. Okay, so now you're done with the notes for today. So you're going to move on and do some more practice with the digital notebook after this. All right, bye.